add
Who?
Lydia to be a
Yes.
panelist as well? Thank you so much.
I just did. Very good. Okay, so this is the joint meeting for Northwest, Central, and Coastal San Pedro Planning and Land Use Committees. Our meeting for October. And my name is Javier Gonzalez Camarillo. I'm with Central Neighborhood Council. And we'll do some quick introductions. Diana?
Diana Nave, Chair of the Northwest Planning Committee.
Frank Nave, Northwest.
Hi, Alan Franz, Coastal.
Lamar Line Central.
James Campbell. Craig Goldfarb, Board Member, Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council.
Jason Herring, Vice Chair, Northwest Planning and Land.
Will Gould, Planning and Land Use, and Chair of the Coastline and Parks and Sunken City Committee.
Frank Anderson, Central.
Elise Swanson, Coastal.
Doug Epperhart, President, Coastal San Pedro.
Adele Healy, Coastal San Pedro.
And then we've got two other people over here. Jerry?
All right, Chair Gaines, South Shores Communities Association, South Shores.
Which can we go to South Coast?
Thank you very much.
I'll introduce myself too.
Oh, sir.
Oh, Sergio.
Carrillo with the Tim McCoster's office.
Okay, he's rolling tonight.
You even seen that. Say that. It's the 1-5.
It's the 1-5.
Okay.
Very good. All right. Well, we'll get started with our agenda, and I would ask everyone to please wait till the presentation is done to ask any questions. And when the questions times come, please keep them brief, because like I said, we have a lot of items on the agenda, so we don't want to be here all night. Our first item on the agenda is the zoning code update, and we have Elisa Gordon from LA City Planning. And Elisa, welcome.
Thank you so much. So should we start our presentation?
Yes, you want me to start the slides?
I think Lydia, if our
Or if you're able to do that, go ahead.
Yeah.
Did you make her a co-host?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I have the capability of sharing right now.
Just a second, okay.
Thank you.
Oh. Okay, so you should, oh, Lydia, I'm sorry. Keep making everybody okay. You. Okay, so you should be able to share a screen now.
Great, thank you so much.
So much I can do.
Is that Max, Elise?
Are you able to, yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
There we go. It looks good.
Can you speak a little louder, Melissa?
Yes, just a second. Sorry.
That's much better.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Elisa Gordon. I'm with Los Angeles City Planning, and I'm joined by Lydia Chapman, who and we are the planners for the San Pedro Zoning Code Update Project. I'm sorry, just a second. Okay, so we are here tonight to share out our recently released story map, and we plan to just walk through the story map and keep this presentation brief and focused in the interest of time, because I know that you have other items on your agenda as well. Okay. So tonight's presentation is focused on showcasing this new interactive story map and walk through its features. A story map is a web-based application that takes the user through a narrative and displays graphics, images, and interactive maps. You may have seen a story map through the release of many of City Planning's programs, including the Harbor LA Community Plan Update. So the story map we will walk through today is our San Pedro ZCU introductory story map. It's intended to share an overview of the new code and its application in San Pedro, new tools and features. And included in the story map is our draft general plan land uses for San Pedro under the new system. So I'll now turn it over to Lydia to share how to access the story map and walk through this application.
Great. Hi, everyone. Glad to be here this evening. Like Elisa's mentioned, I'm going to show you where the story map is located on our website and walk you through the site itself. So we have a project website, which is located at planning.lacity-san pedro-zcu. The site hosts our story map and also has been updated with past presentations and resources. The website is also now available in Spanish translation by clicking the button on the right in yellow.
Excuse me, do you think you could speak a little louder?
And more slowly.
Sure, no problem. Sorry, give me one moment. Oh. So sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. Let me hold on one moment. Sorry.
Like getting stuck behind the self checkout person who doesn't know how to use their equipment.
While she's doing that, for those of you who haven't been to the meeting before, there is a new zoning code for the city of Los Angeles. And this presentation is about how they're transitioning from the old zoning code to the new zoning code for San Pedro. Not to be confused with the upzoning that may occur as a part of the general plan update. So there's two different things going on at once.
Thank you for clarifying, because I wondered.
Yes.
Great, sorry about that. So yeah, can you all hear me okay now?
Sounds a little better.
Okay.
It's hard to hear, but it's better.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. So the story map application is available by navigating to the draft material on the menu bar as seen on this slide. You can access the story map by clicking on the story map button. It will take you to a web page that will open. Oops, sorry. So sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties here.
This presentation was in tonight's agenda packet. So you can go to it and see the links.
Great.
Oh, maybe if you can click on the next tab.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I'm gonna take you over to our story map now so we can quickly walk you through it. Sorry, I haven't used Zoomed in a little while, so it's taking me a little while to adjust. So thank you everyone for your patience.
We're having trouble understanding. Can you say that again?
I just said apologize for technical difficulties. I haven't used Zoomed in a little while. So here we go. I'm going to open up our story map here so we can all view it. Can you all see the story map?
Yes, it's on my screen as well. But let us know if there's issues hearing Lydia, and I can take over the presentation if needed.
She's in a very reverberant room, so there's a lot of echo from the room that she's in.
Got it.
And makes it more difficult to understand.
Okay, I can kind of go over the presentation from here, I think, if needed. But we just wanted to kind of show you our story map. So if you so this application is used by scrolling. So if you use your mouse or down arrows, you can see the story map. So we do have that fixed menu bar that has the different tabs, and you can utilize that to kind of jump ahead, or if you hover over, you can see an underline to see where you are in the presentation or in the story map. So we're just going to go ahead and skip the introductory portion and jump right into the about the project due to the limited time here. But, just to reiterate, about the project, we are taking forward the new zoning code update citywide, and it's going to be implemented per plan area. So this is the San Pedro zoning code update that we are doing in this project. The idea around the new zoning code is to create a very user-friendly code. It makes searching for information much more easy to really understand what regulations might apply to a given property. It also hosts a lot of new tools that can be activated as well. So let's scroll down a little bit here. We do have a couple notes on the project, as Diana mentioned, there are other initiatives going on in the city planning department. There's a separate program in the housing element team, their rezoning program. So if you do want information about that, really recommend navigating to this website for the latest on that, because it is a separate project from this program. And also this project does not include a local coastal program. That would be anticipated to be a follow-up program to the San Pedro ZCU. But if you're interested to find out more about that initiative, we have that link as well. So just going into the new zoning code portion.
If you don't hear, you might want to move down to this end of the room, because we can pretty well hear now down here. Go ahead, sorry.
So the new zoning code is a modular system. It's made up of 5 main components. So that would be form, frontage, standards, use, and density. And so the new zoning code is just the zone string. And then we have walked through each component of that zone string in the story map in a very summarized high-level format to give you an idea of what regulations are in each component. And we have on the right side, we have some photographs that give some visual cues for reference of, what the districts can do. So scrolling through, we have the form covered here, frontage, development standards, use, and density. And we want to jump into the highlights portion at this point to talk about some of the special features that we can bring forward with this project. So one of those features is the character frontage tool. It's a special feature of the new zoning code. It allows you to regulate buildings in a historical context to ensure that new construction could be compatible with its context. And so that is going to be paired with a separate tool called the conservation district, and that tool regulates the existing historic properties with the goal of retaining the character defining features. So scrolling down, we do have a map here that shows the boundaries of the San Pedro Commercial Area Historic Resources Survey. So this is our existing survey to understand the historic district in San Pedro. And so we intend to apply the conservation district and character frontage within this boundary. And so that's along Pacific and 7th and 6th Streets in the downtown area. So scrolling down a little bit, we have the character frontage tool to give you an idea of some of the design standards that would exist with this character frontage tool, which we went over in the presentation that we made last summer. So some of those design feature standards include things like regulating exterior materials, roof form, articulation, and transparency as some examples. And it's a new feature that we are developing is the landscaping regulations. So the CPIO indicates that projects would be required to plant native or drought tolerant plant species, but doesn't really give a lot of additional guidance for how to comply with those standards. So we are developing, as part of this project, a list of trees and shrubs that would take the place of that regulation and point you directly to which plants would be allowed to meet the requirement. And so then that takes us to the final component of this story map, which is the draft land use, the general plan land uses. So I think I mentioned before that the general plan land uses with the new code and the new zoning are a different set of general plan land uses. So that requires the need to make a new set for San Pedro. And so we do have this interactive map included in the story map. You can go from left to right and see on the left side, we have the existing general plan land uses that were created by the community plan update. And on the right side, you have the draft proposed general plan land uses that this project could bring forward. And down below, we have a legend to show you what those land uses are proposed to be. And then inside this interactive map, we have a button on the left corner with a legend for the existing and proposed built into the map. We also have an expansion button in the top corner, and we have zoom features as well. And then on the right side of this map, you can click on properties and you can pull up a menu or more information about a particular parcel. So for example, at the top we see a PIN, and that is indicative of like which property this is referring to. We have the existing general plan uses with a link to the community plan that describes what that land use is. We have the existing zoning below, and we have the proposed general plan land use designation, low residential. We are missing the proposed zoning, but we would be filling that in and in later editions of the story map that we share out. And so we have below the proposed GPLU, we have a description of that GPLU. This is a very generalized description for the city to apply the parameters in which a particular GPLU can be used. So you do have ranges of building forms and scales, as well as densities and units. But in our case, we are doing the San Pedro zoning code update. It's mostly an equivalency that we're looking to replicate what we have today, which in today's community plan, we have the load 2 residential corresponding with a R1 one unit property. So we would be coming up with that equivalency. But in this new zoning code, we also have beyond R1, we also have an additional R1 for hillside properties. So those would be the corresponding zones for that given example. Okay, so I think that takes us through our entire story map. So we just want to navigate back to the presentation. So we want to share out about, all right, Lydia, I think you have the notes here. How to follow along with our project. We do have a, we did share out this story map with the department e-blast, and that went out to people that have subscribed on our website. And we also have a list from people that subscribed for sign up for the prior community plan update, the San Pedro community plan update. So if you haven't received this notification or you're interested to follow along and find out more, please do sign up on our website on the contact page. And so our timeline, we are still developing the new zones. We are working through the landscaping regulations and crafting the character frontage and other details of this project, the zoning. And we are going to be preparing an environmental document as well. So next year we'll be sharing out our zones and sharing out exactly what the different regulations would entail, such as the exact regulations within, for example, character frontage. And we would be looking to have a public hearing going through that formal adoption process, going to City Planning Commission, Planning and Land Use Management Committee, as well as final adoption by City Council. And so that brings us to our last slide, and we hope that you take some time to check out our story map. Please feel free to get in touch if you have, any questions or comments. We also have a project-specific email address now at planning.sanpedro-zcu@lacity.org. Thank you. That concludes our presentation for today.
Thank you, Elisa.
Happy to answer any questions that may have come up.
Lydia. Let's see. We have questions.
Yeah, I just had one comment. Thank you so much for the presentation. The section where you started talking about deciding on what drought tolerant and native plants you were going to use. California natives are not all created equal. And I was just going to suggest that if you haven't already, we have an expert here on our committee, Alan Franz, right over there, who's a master at locally sourced Southern California native plants that are native to this area. And if you're going through deciding on which ones should be on your list, you need to be talking to him, because I don't know anyone who knows more about it than he does. So I would encourage you to reach out and speak with Alan. He's an expert.
I agree with him.
You'll be hearing from him anyway.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. We would love to have a discussion about that.
Yeah, as I look for materials, I was looking at the website here on my phone, and I see that this is followed up by development of a local coastal plan for San Pedro. And that's a particular interest to the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council. So how do these two interface? Does the local coastal plan, when that is developed, overlay this? Or how do they mesh, or what's the difference? And do you have any idea when we might start seeing that process?
Well, I think the idea is to go through this process of having the zoning code update in place prior to starting up any kind of local coastal program for San Pedro. But I think the idea is to have, similarly with the new zoning code system, to have the regulations kind of embedded in the zoning itself. So they would probably take the place of the zoning within that portion of San Pedro that is in the coastal zone.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Do we have any idea when that timeline might occur?
That's a good question. I'm not sure when that may occur. I think the city is looking to complete the Venice LCP process maybe before starting up the new initiatives. So I would probably need to get back to you about that when we have more information. Yeah, I would say so.
We're aware of when that happens, and that we're able to do the necessary community involvement as that occurs.
Absolutely. I think it would be a process, because we have to,
Right.
we would be going through public outreach and working with you all and notifying you of any kind of LCP that may be proposed.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Sure.
Any other questions? No, I guess we are off question for now.
I would urge everyone to go to the website and look at it and get a feel for it, because this is going to be very important to us, making sure that these things get translated the way we want. And so if we get ahead of the game by looking at it now, when they come out with the next iteration, it'll be easier for us to understand it.
Definitely. Agree with you, Diana.
And I want to thank you guys for the historical The part that you listened and came forward with the historical regulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we're really happy to see in the planning.
That's great to hear. We're going to be excited too to come back with more information on what those regulations are. I think they're just kind of in draft form right now, but we'd be happy to get more feedback on that as well.
Okay.
Very well. Well, thank you so much. Thanks again for the presentation, and I'm sure we'll be in touch with you.
Sounds good. Thank you so
questions.
much for having us today.
Thanks. Okay, and we have Alexa Washburn from National Court. Can you hear us?
Yes, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, very good, thanks.
You're going to have to show her slides.
Oh, okay.
She's the one whose slides you have to show.
Okay, I need
Please,
somebody.
yes, if you could control advance the slides, and I'll just, I'll let you know when we can move to the next slide. I'd appreciate it.
You know, before we go to that presentation, if I may, Diana, just to add a little bit more. The zoning code changed. We in CD15 are the first in the city going through these whole new general plan uses and zoning changes. The Wilmington Harbor City Community Plan and the Harbor Gateway Community Plan are being redone as it is. And so it made no sense to have most of the council district under new general plan uses and new zoning code and have San Pedro under a different zoning code. So it would be like, oh yeah, that's M3 in San Pedro, but it's whatever in Wilmington. And so that's why we're going through this whole process. It's very important for you to be a part of it because we are the first in the city going through these huge changes, general plan uses, and what have you. And so please, if you go make yourself feeling on there. In San Pedro, the idea is to pick the new zone to correspond with the existing zone. It's not to make massive changes as they are in Wilmington and in Harbor Gateway and Harbor City, because you just went through a community plan process a few years ago. So the idea in San Pedro is to try to duplicate it as much as possible as what you have today. Obviously, there's gonna be some changes here or there because we're changing codes, but for the most part, that is the goal in San Pedro. Versus Wilmington and Harbor City and Harbor Gateway, we're looking at land uses overall because we have not done those community plan updates in over 20 years. So know that we're the guinea pigs.
Okay, fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Okay, so
The question right out of my mouth.
here's the presentation.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present an update on the One San Pedro specific plan. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces in the room. I saw a few of you over the summer when we had the community meeting on the public review of the draft environmental impact report, which is scheduled to go to the HACLA board for certification next month. So we're making progress. I know it's been a while, but I also wanted to draw your attention as Zoe Kreneman with HACLA. She's the development manager. She's also joined the meeting. So I wanted to acknowledge her and that she's here as well to help answer questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, next slide, please. And I should introduce myself. I'm sorry. I assume you all know me, but my name's Alexa Washburn. I'm Senior Vice President of Planning and Acquisitions for National Community Renaissance. And we are National Core is one of 3 developers along with Century Housing and the Richmond Group that make up the One San Pedro Collaborative. We are HACLA's development partner for the redevelopment of Rancho San Pedro. All right, so let's get into it. So it's been over 3 years. If we go back to March of 2020, this is when HUD approved the One San Pedro transformation plan. Okay, and this was a document that really detailed the vision to transform the 21-acre public housing site at Rancho San Pedro. And it also included the surrounding Barton Hill neighborhood. And the approval of that transformation plan really represented the culmination of a 2-year planning effort that involved you, the residents, nonprofit partners, the housing authority, the business community, city representatives. And it's that transformation plan that really served as the foundation for this specific plan. We also used DCP's specific plan guidance, as well as the specific plan is modeled after the Expo Line neighborhood specific plan, as well as the Jordan Downs specific plan. And you'll see here on this slide a table of contents. So the plan covers everything from land use and development standards to design standards, open space, landscape, mobility, and implementation. And then we also will include the mitigation and monitoring program from the EIR as an appendix. Okay, next slide, please. There we go. So you may be asking, well, what the heck is a specific plan? How does it relate to all of these other planning efforts, the rezoning that you just heard about, and all of these other planning documents within the city? Well, this specific plan, it's a planning tool that applies to a selected geographic area. So in this case, it's the 21-acre Rancho San Pedro complex. And the specific plan, it contains a custom set of zoning rules and land use regulations to ultimately guide development within a specified area. The specific plan, it also implements the goals and policies of the City of LA's general plan for this focused area of the city. And it goes really above and beyond in terms of additional development standards. It goes beyond what the underlying zoning would normally regulate, right? And really, essentially, the overall purpose of the One San Pedro specific plan is to improve the physical condition of Rancho San Pedro and increase housing and amenities for the residents and the community of San Pedro. Next slide, please. So the One San Pedro specific plan, it will govern the redevelopment of the 21-acre Rancho San Pedro public housing complex. And it's generally bounded by, we've got Harbor Boulevard on the east, 3rd Street on the south, Santa Cruz Street to the north, and then it stretches over to Mesa Street on the west. I also included, if you see that red box just to the north where I've highlighted a parcel, that is what we call our off-site relocation parcel known as 327 Harbor. And that will be the first off-site phase that's actually going, where we applied for financing and we're going through our permitting through the City of LA right now. And that will serve as our first, what we call phase 0, if you will, off-site, where the first initial residents on site will move to 327 Harbor. So then we can unlock the redevelopment on site. But that is not included in the specific plan. That's why it's in red. I just wanted to let you can see the proximity of 327 Harbor to the specific plan area. Next slide. So the project essentially consists of the phased demolition of the existing 478 unit public housing complex. And so that's going to be phased demolition and ultimately phased replacement. And it will include the construction of up to 1,600 housing units, including a mix of affordable and market rate rental and ownership units. And it will include up to 85,000 square feet of neighborhood serving uses. So things like community center, a fitness facility, lease and management offices, a medical clinic, after school care, and small neighborhood retail. And then it will also include up to 45,000 square feet of commercial retail uses. So this is, we want, that the community wants a grocery store, a pharmacy, or a drugstore. And then as well as new open space, parks, bicycle, pedestrian, and transit amenities. Next slide, please.
A second.
Next slide.
There we go. Now the specific plan area, it's divided into 3 phases, and the maximum development permitted in each phase is shown in the table here. So even though we have broken down by each phase, in no case can the maximum total units exceed 1,553 units. It cannot exceed 45,000 square feet of commercial retail, and it cannot exceed 85,000 square feet of neighborhood serving uses. Next slide, please. Here we go. Now, the specific plan also includes 4 sub-areas, or I refer to these as districts a lot. And so we have the neighborhood general sub-area. Those are the buildings that are shown colored orange. Okay, that sub-area is primarily focused on residential development that integrates with the Barton Hill neighborhood, and it allows for multifamily uses along with amenities. We've got some services and administrative uses. So that's the neighborhood general district. Again, shown in orange, the buildings in orange. The neighborhood core sub-area or district are the buildings that are colored yellow. Now, this is located in the center of the project site, and it's intended to support a little bit denser residential and mixed-use development. And then as you move towards the waterfront, we've got the waterfront core, which are the blue buildings. And those are meant to integrate with the existing commercial, along Harbor Boulevard. And it essentially, that sub area provides opportunities for greater height buildings and density, including high-rise development and a mix of commercial, retail, and residential uses. And then we also have the green areas, which is the open space sub area or zone that's identified in green. And this is set aside as public open space and community recreation facilities. And so the specific plan, it allows for a diverse set of uses appropriate for each sub area or zone. And those are defined in the permitted uses table, which are included which is in the specific plan. Next slide, please. So the development standards. The specific plan also establishes the maximum densities and floor area ratios, maximum heights, and maximum lot coverage on the project site. And this again is broken down by sub area. So you'll notice that there's a maximum of 60 feet in the neighborhood general zone, 85 feet in the neighborhood core zone, and we can go all the way up to 180 feet in the waterfront zone. And then we've limited heights in the open space zone. That's really to accommodate community centers and recreational facilities. Next slide, please. Open space. Lots of open space in the specific plan area. So we have on-site common open space and private open space. And this is generally consistent with the provisions that are already in the LA Municipal Code. What we've really focused on and expanded is that there will be approximately 5.3 acres. So think of that, almost more than 25% of the specific plan area is set aside as public park space. And I've listed the major park components there. The big one is Center Street Park. That's shown on the green area off of Center Street that has an A labeled on it. It also includes a community center and recreation deck. Then we have our Palos Verdes Linear Park, which consists of 3 segments. It's the north and middle and south blocks. So that's our Palos Verdes Linear Park. We also are proposing to close streets to vehicular activity as for Harbor Plaza and Beacon Promenade. And then we just have a number of Paseo plazas is what we're calling them, scattered throughout the site as well. Next slide, please. Parking. This is our favorite topic, right? So the majority of the project parking would be provided in a series of subterranean or semi-subterranean parking structures. Okay, so it's out of sight, integrated within the building designs. And these parking structures are generally going to consist of 1 to 2 subterranean levels, right, beneath these mixed use and residential buildings. Now the townhomes, these are the home ownership components. They're going to have their own private attached garages. But we've meant to maximize the on-street parking as well. So you'll see where we're adding a mix of parallel as well as diagonal parking on certain streets. And in addition, the specific plan, it also establishes standards for parking. And, you know, through the community outreach, we listened and we heard, we want more parking. That was a clear message. And so we're doubling the amount of parking that's currently available right now. There will be a minimum requirement of 1 space per unit. We also allow for shared parking programs if it can be demonstrated through a shared parking study that would have to be approved through the city. We also, Rancho San Pedro has a very successful electric car share program. So we're hoping to expand on that. We are expanding on that. We're requiring car share stalls and stations throughout the specific plan area as well. And then, of course, the specific plan also addresses bike parking. Next slide, please. Now let's get into design. The specific plan, it includes a number of requirements that pertain to building form, building orientation, and frontages. And this is to ensure that it's a cohesive development. You know, this is going to be built out over the next 14 years. We want to make sure this is a cohesive master planned community, that it's pedestrian oriented, and that it's visually appealing. So we have a number of standards in there that break up the length of the building. We include balconies as part of an articulation strategy. We, for buildings on blocks that are longer than 250 feet, we include a paseo that connects through to another street. So it's that mid-block paseo that you see in some of those longer blocks there. And then we also have established minimum and maximum setbacks as shown in the table here. I also want to point out that we've given emphasis to the ground floor design, requiring greater floor to ceiling heights. Next slide, please. Hey, mobility. The specific plan also incorporates a number of enhancements to mobility enhancements to facilitate walking, biking, riding transit, while also managing motor vehicle circulation, you know, safely through the neighborhood. And so what we've done is we've prioritized streets. We've got our transit priority streets, which is along South Harbor Boulevard and West First Street, right? So these are streets that are going to accommodate buses and transit. We have our what we call our bicycle priority streets along Harbor and West 2nd Street. And then we have our pedestrian priority streets along West 1st and 2nd Street. We also include a walking loop around the linear Palos Verdes Park, and then the Beacon Street Promenade and Harbor Boulevard Promenade. Next slide, please. The specific plan also creates a multi-layer network, a bicycle network. And so that's shown in the exhibit here. We're playing on the regional backbone bicycle facilities along Pacific Avenue and Harbor Boulevard, and connecting those to new bicycle facilities that traverse through the project site. Next slide, please. And pedestrian paths. So we've established a safe routes to school network that would also be developed, and this primarily connects Barton Hill Elementary School to the Boys and Girls Club, as well as the new youth park and the Palos Verdes Park along the way. We're also proposing between West 2nd Street, between Harbor and Palos Verdes, and then South Beacon Street between 1st and 3rd Streets. We're proposing to close those to vehicular traffic to create a pedestrian-only plaza and paseo. Next slide, please. And first and foremost is safety. Right, so the specific plan identifies a number of traffic calming improvements throughout the specific plan area. The goal, again, is to create a pedestrian-friendly environment that encourages walking, biking, transit use, while also maintaining safe vehicular circulation. Next slide, please. So this is where it brings it all together. This is the conceptual site plan. It includes the building placement, the mobility improvements, the open space opportunities. So the purple lines that are shown represent the walking networks of sidewalks and paseos. Then we have the blue lines, those indicate the bicycle facilities to better connect the plan area to the waterfront. So you'll see 2nd Street is prioritized with the bikeway. And then the yellow areas, those are the pedestrian plazas and promenade envisioned along 2nd Street from Palos Verdes to Harbor, connecting to that waterfront. And then also notable is that we are proposing to close Beacon Street to vehicles from 1st Street to 3rd Street to also create a pedestrian promenade corridor. Next slide, please. So the implementation chapter of the specific plan that identifies the maximum development amenities and public improvements for each phase. And so these public improvements that are listed, they need to be completed prior to certificate of occupancy for the final building of each phase. So for phase 1, which is shown in yellow, we allow up to 375 units. Amenities are to include up to 32,000 square feet of neighborhood serving uses. We're also going to be replacing the existing RAC office and property management buildings. And then we are delivering 2 public park components. And then the first phase is also heavily loaded with some infrastructure and circulation improvements. We call these like phase 0 infrastructure that needs to occur in order to facilitate redevelopment. So we have some major undergrounding that has to occur, some upgrade of the electrical corridor. And then we'll also be adding the 2nd Street bikeway in that first phase. Next slide. And then phase 2, which is shown in the orange. This would accommodate residential development up to 600 units. Amenities would include up to 25,000 square feet of commercial uses and up to 30,000 square feet of neighborhood serving uses. We again would deliver 2 public park components, including the Center Street Corner Plaza. And then infrastructure and circulation, focusing on a new traffic signal that we're proposing at 3rd Street to get folks safely across Harbor Boulevard. And then phase 3 is shown in purple, excuse me. Next slide, please. There we go. And then the final phase 3, would include residential development up to 578 units, amenities up to 20,000 square feet of commercial uses, 23,000 square feet of neighborhood serving uses, and again, delivering 2 additional public park components. And then this is where we will also integrate a transit hub at 1st Street and Beacon. Next slide, please. So just the next series of slides are a number of renderings. So this is the bird's eye view that depicts the culmination of once the specific plan, the project is built out. This is a bird's eye rendering of what it may look like. So again, you really see a lot of that addition of public open space and parks. All of the parking is hidden. Next slide. These are renderings of the building. Again, I talked about how the specific plan provides design requirements for the project site, including architecture and landscaping. Generally the architecture is going to be characterized by modern building materials with accent materials, a variety of textures, including precast concrete. It might include wood and stone. And, we want to make sure that these materials and details would be resilient, right, to the saltwater moisture, the coastal breezes, so ensuring durability and the ability to be cleaned. Next slide, please. Just some additional building renderings here. Next slide, please. And here's some renderings that reflects the vision for the streetscape. You'll notice the addition of a number of street trees. Next slide. Here are some renderings of the youth-oriented sports park and the ball fields that would be located along Center Street between 1st and 2nd. So this is going to be a nice new large public park, really focused on the youth. Next slide, please. This is a nice rendering of the Palos Verdes linear park. Again, it will stretch 3 blocks and be delivered in 3 components. And the next slide. This is a concept for the linear park, again, that would run along Palos Verdes. And next slide. More of a vision for the linear park where we would have a combination of both active and passive open space. So this shows how certain areas of that linear park could be activated with either a skate park or a children's playground, tot lot area, etc. And next slide. These are renderings of mobility. Again, the goal here is to increase pedestrian safety, provide a walking network of sidewalks and paseos, crosswalks, and introduction of more street trees. And one more, next slide. This is also an example of the transit stop that would be located along 3rd Street. And the final rendering, again, next slide. And 327 Harbor, again, this 327 Harbor site is not included in the specific plan area, but I did want to give you a sneak preview of the rendering for that first offsite phase. So this will be at the corner of Harbor and O'Farrell. And next slide, please. So timeline, I included 2 timelines because we currently have the environmental review occurring that's a little bit ahead of the city approved specific plan. So the environmental review timeline, again, I saw many of you at the public meeting that we had over the summer. We're right at the stage where we are releasing the response to comments. Ahead of the HACLA board meeting, which is scheduled for November 16th. And it's at that board meeting that HACLA is being recommended to certify the environmental impact report for 1 San Pedro. Next slide. Now, the next slide includes the entitlements timeline, and the entitlements include the specific plan as well as a phased vesting tentative track map. And so we are aiming for a joint hearing for the entitlements and the map in the January-February timeframe. We then would move to the Planning Commission in March-April timeframe. Then the Plum Committee hearing would be in May, June, and then finally it would get to council in the June, July of next year. Now, because this is the specific plan must be adopted by ordinance, it sets the zoning for the 21 acres. There is a second reading that's required, and then the zoning ordinance would take effect 45 days after. So we're still about a year out. But I see the finish line in sight. And it's just we'll spend much of 2024 just working our way through the various committees, right, to finally get to city council next summer. And I believe, next slide. Yes, that concludes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions that you might have. And also wanted to say Zoe is here from HACLA as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexa. Do we have questions? Pat?
I have a few questions. Other than street lighting, all utilities will be underground?
Yes.
And no billboards, I assume?
No billboards.
Okay, I appreciate what you've done to tie the project to the waterfront, but I was hoping to see more emphasis on tying the development to downtown San Pedro, 5th, 6th, and 7th, 8th Streets. Now, early on, there was some discussion about making better walkways along Mesa, Center Street, and the like. What's the status of that? Is anything being done working with the city to provide better access to downtown San Pedro?
Yes, we are. If we could go back several slides that provides that bird's eye rendering. Yeah, keep going, because I think this gives us a good, keep going, and right there. Okay, This depicts that not only are we intentionally connecting Rancho San Pedro to the waterfront, but we also do want to connect it to the downtown. So you've got Palos Verdes and Mesa, really flowing towards the downtown. So you've got the east-west connector as well as the north-south. So yes, that's something that is also very intentional. I may not have picked up on that in my presentation, but we are giving that emphasis in the specific plan and working with the city to ensure that connection.
I can't tell how far the red lines there in the middle go down. They go down to 3rd Street only, or go on down to 5th, 6th?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? I cut out a little bit.
Well, there's some red plantings, it looks like, and then there's another street to the right, and 2 streets to the right that are going north-south. How far down does it extend? There in the drawing.
Yes, so you'll see along, are you referring to like the purple street trees?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so those connect all the way down to I'm sorry, 2nd Street, right? You see that along Palos Verdes?
The other side is 5th.
Yeah.
The other side of 5th?
Yes.
2nd to 5th?
Correct.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
No.
No, really quickly, thank you so much for the presentation. My question was that you spoke a lot about parking, which is great. I was wondering if you had a count of how much parking there's going to be in the buildings and how much parking is going to be available on street. You had parallel parking and diagonal parking. Do you have quantities of the parking available that you're proposing?
Well, we do have the parking standards, right, that we would be required to meet at a minimum. So for example, the minimum of 1 space per unit, that is the minimum that we must provide within the parking structures. I can't tell you at this time. So if it was a 1-to-1, right, and we're at a maximum of 1,600 units, but some of those units are home ownership units that require 2 spaces per townhome. So it really varies, but at a minimum, it's 1 space per multifamily unit. And then on certain streets, I think we can keep this one up. We also maximize on-street parking, right, through that mix of parallel and diagonal parking. And so the specific plan we propose, if I get this right, parallel parking along Santa Cruz, 1st Street, 2nd Street, and then the west side of Harbor Boulevard. And then parallel parking along Santa Cruz, 1st Street, 2nd Street, the west side of Harbor Boulevard, Beacon Street, Palos Verdes, Mesa, and Center Street. And then diagonal parking is proposed on 3rd Street and Center Street from 1st to 3rd Street.
Okay, thank you. My one suggestion would be, since this is a specific plan, if it's not already included, that I would include those numbers in the specific plan, because a lot of specific plans that I've looked at are, really get down to the specificity of things like that. So people who are looking at it and trying to figure out, the details of those kinds of things, they just look right at the plan and it's like, okay, and here we're going to have, one parking space per unit, and over here we're going to have these many spaces. They'll be diagonal and there'll be 300 spaces, or whatever it ends up being. That would be good information to have detailed in the plan.
Great. Yeah, we appreciate that input. We'll try to accommodate that.
Right.
Okay, first of all, your buildings in orange, you say they're mixed use. What percentage of the ground floor is mixed use on those orange buildings?
Well, it's not, so are we going back? Okay, there.
No, it was farther back.
No.
Well, that would be a good, if we went back to the phases, because it's not necessarily the percentage of the building. It is that by each phase, so if we could go back to Slide 6. There we go. Yeah. So what's important to keep in mind here is, so here's the 3 phases. And if you look at the column that says maximum commercial retail uses and maximum neighborhood service uses, that's the maximum square footage in each of those phases that the ground floor can accommodate non-residential uses. So most of the ground floor in the neighborhood core and the waterfront sub areas will be non-residential. In the neighborhood general sub area or district, that's primarily residential focused. So there will be less, you might have some neighborhood serving commercial, you know, those types of uses that are less than 3,000 square feet along the ground floor, but primarily the non-residential, the mixed use buildings are going to be in the neighborhood core and the waterfront core. And then there's limits on the square footage.
Okay, next.
I have like 4 questions.
Can we move one? Sure. Just to allow time.
Sorry. Oh, no, okay. How many, one space per unit, how many bedrooms per unit?
So it's a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms primarily. It'll be, and it depends on the phase. So we do have a senior phase, for example, that would be primarily 1 bedroom units, but the other buildings will be a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units.
Thank you.
Lamar?
Because of the location of the cruise lines, is there any consideration for the transportation piece to be tied into like a transportation hub in conjunction with this project?
Yes, so we are proposing a transit hub along 3rd Street. And so we're working closely with LADOT as well as Metro to coordinate that. If we go to the, I was trying to think of a good exhibit to demonstrate that. I know I included a rendering, but it's not in the conceptual site plan, but it is along 3rd Street towards Harbor that we are proposing a transit hub.
Yeah, Diana.
Yeah, just quick. Dave, it may have been on your last slide, I didn't notice. Is there a website, if people want to really look at the whole plan and read those chapters, where would they go?
So the specific plan is available at the public libraries, at the local public libraries. It's also available upon request through DCP, through the Department of City Planning. They have also, and then HACLA has also posted it on their website.
Oh. Can you send me a link to where it is on their website that I can send out?
Yes, yeah, we'll send you a link to the page on the HACLA website. It's a page that's been dedicated. It has the EIR, the draft EIR, various presentations that have been given to the community, as well as the draft specific plan. So I'll ensure I get that to you, Diane. Yeah.
All right, Jason.
Okay, are you planning to rotate all the temporarily displaced residents through that offsite building?
Not necessarily. Some, you know, it's up to some, and Zoe may want to get into the requirements for relocation, but it's really up to the residents. Some may want to stay at 327 Harbor, and some may want to move back to the main site, and some may choose to move off site. They are given choices. But primarily it's kind of like a Legos, is that you take our first phase is planned for the center of the existing Rancho San Pedro complex, where the open field and the administrative offices are, and then there's just one kind of block of units, and it's really essentially those units that need to be moved into 327 Harbor to unlock much larger phases. And so once that first phase is built on site, not only can we move the residents from 327 Harbor back on site, but then you can move folks that would be in the next phase into the new building on site. And it's dominoes. It goes like that. So not every resident may live in 327 Harbor. No.
Okay. Are you still planning on a pedestrian footbridge across Harbor Boulevard as you have in this diagram right here, in this rendering?
We are not actually. There with the new, I'm sorry, this diagram may be a little bit outdated. So we at one time were contemplating a pedestrian bridge across Harbor. Now with the addition of the new linear park that HACLA helped build on the waterfront side of Harbor, there really isn't a landing place. There's just not enough space to accommodate a pedestrian bridge. And so that's why we're proposing a signal as well as crosswalks.
Okay. So it's probably worse than you think, because space-wise, because the connectivity plan actually shows an expansion of 3 lanes each direction past your space there. And you mentioned parking on Harbor, which would probably have to be forfeit in that plan.
And I know we just submitted a comment letter, our comments, because we want to ensure that that connectivity plan is consistent with the specific plan. So we are working with the port to ensure that there is consistency. But thank you for bringing that to my attention. So I want to make sure that we included that in our comment letter.
Yeah, this is a comment to you, to people here, not to Mrs. Washburn, but Ms. Washburn. But this is twice the density on 1/3 the land that Ponte Vista is. And we're already hearing complaints on Western.
7 times the density.
But I think if we were going to look for
May I finish? I mean,
the place.
Sure. And we're already hearing complaints on Western, and they haven't even finished the Ponte Vista project. So Harbor is not as wide as Western, and the improvements that they're making will make it narrower. And I have not yet seen any of the transportation that we've been told. I mean, Joe's theory, Joe Buscagno's theory was build it and it will come. But, so that's just for all you guys.
Anybody else?
Right.
Hang on, one more question.
That is a good point, Noel. It is a 14-year build out. So it's not, it's, yeah, it'll, exactly.
I'm interested in the specific plan, parts of it concerning enforcement of the specific plan. For example, does the specific plan specify or require a homeowners association or reporting requirement? How are these specific plan requirements going to be enforced?
Yes, so it's not, there's a couple different documents, right? We have, yes, an HOA will be established so that there's a common area maintenance amongst the entire site in between phases. And that's replicated in a couple different places. We have development agreements that we are entering into with HACLA that require the HOA and set up the structure for that. It's also something that the city will require. So there's a couple of different checks and balances with HACLA as well as the city.
All right. Don't see any further questions, except, sorry.
I know that first of all, great work from the team to develop the draft specific plan that we have thus far. But I know she mentioned that, we're a year away from the specific plan being adopted, but we're not a year away from the construction beginning. So come December, HACLA will close escrow on 327 North Harbor. And come June, we're going to break ground on that facility.
June 2024.
June 2024. So while the specific plan is moving forward, we will break ground on phase 0 come next June. So the project is moving forward a lot quicker. And so we are kind of jazzed about that, excited about that, because that is very important before we can begin the real phase 1 of the whole project. So it's starting as early as next June.
Yes.
Thanks, Sergio.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your presentation, and we're going to look forward to getting into more of the information as you.
And construction starting.
Yes. Well, thank you all. If you have any further questions, please feel free to send me an email or give me a call. A lot of you have my cell phone, so happy to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Alexa.
Take care.
And we will put on the agenda for next month if we have any comments. So if you look at the specific plan and you have any comments, you send them to me, I'll try to compile them so that we can discuss them at our meeting next month. Because that's time-wise, that's when we need to be looking at making them.
Yes. Thank you, and thanks again.
That's great.
We're going to move on to our next item of the agenda, and Sergio, is Pamela going to do this?
She's on.
Oh, come on.
She's on there somewhere, she said.
Right there.
I know, I've been trying to promote her to panelist, but she has not accepted.
She's having dinner.
There we go. Hi, Pamela, can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes.
And she's still at work. That's exciting.
Yes.
Okay, so hello, everyone. I'm Pamela Thornton with the 1-5 team. I have brief updates. Sergio, you can follow along with me. Okay, so I wanted to just give you a couple of updates that I received. So the San Pedro Courthouse Development Project, I know there was a question on the status of that. I have been working with the team, and the last communication I had with the planning department was last month. During that time, there were 3 items in the design that was triggering a modification of the design. So I was trying to help to navigate through that. And I think that was resolved. I haven't received an update in the last couple of weeks. So I think it's just going through the planning process. So hopefully they'll be able to clear and pull their building permits. So are there any questions on that?
What were the items?
It's a lot. Do you want me to go through that? It's a lot. It's a design feature. They're all design related.
But nothing that has changed from the original concept.
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay.
A little bit. A little bit. And that's why there was, but I can tell you, but I don't know if that's still on the table or if they decided to just move forward. So I don't have an update. The last communication I had with the planning department to follow up was September 21st. So I put a call in to Bill and his team, and they probably will call me tomorrow. But as of today, I don't know. I will send you the actual 3 modifications so you can see it. But it's all design related.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question. On when, I think the hauling was supposed to start this month.
It's true, but I don't have any updates on whether or not that was delayed. As far as I know, everything as far as the hauling is approved and was moving forward. The only thing that was the holdup were those 3 modification questions. Other than that, everything else had been satisfied. I can't hear you. You got to speak louder because I can't hear you.
No, I'm just asking Diana if there were any questions, but you said there was more update?
Yeah.
Yeah, the modification questions and those, I'm gonna send that to you, you know, and so you can digest it.
Okay,
Your architectural world.
okay. Curious to see them.
I'm gonna send them to you right now. Okay, so are we clear with that one? Any
Yes.
other
Yes.
questions? Okay, so the next one was the status of the boutique hotel on 6th and Pacific. We haven't had any communication, Sergio and I, with that developer or the team. The last information that we have is the same that you had. So we have the determination letter and then the appeal when it went before the Harbor Area Commission. And that was in 2019. We have no updated status. I think Sergio heard that they're supposed to start after the Warner Grand closes. Is that the last communication, Sergio?
Yes, but not from the developer. That was a rumor that members of the community have heard, but we have not
I don't
heard
have
directly.
confirmation of that.
But they have
There's no permits being pulled.
No, I
we did-
checked today. I don't see any permit records.
We did check for permits being pulled, and they were, back in the day, about 2-3 years ago, there was, documentation submitted, but since then, permits have been pulled.
There's one more thing.
One more.
One more. Next one, Pam.
Okay, and then the Metro sign ordinance. So the status of that, so the LA City Council directed the LA City Planning Department to prepare an ordinance to amend the municipal code to allow Metro to implement the Transportation Communication Network known as TCN. So the revised draft ordinance and it was an item that was attached, and I can send that to you, was approved as amended by the City Planning Commission on Thursday, September the 14th. So as far as this goes, it's moving along. But none of the signs are in our council district. So we wanted to stress that. So I don't know, was there any feedback that you received that you thought that some of our signage would be affected by this?
No.
Okay, you wanted the update, right?
We were concerned about some of the contents of the ordinance, but not because it affected our.
What was amended?
So the city administrator's office, the CAO, so their last update was 9/28/23. I don't have the specific amendments in front of me. I can send that to you as well. I just had high level of the status and what happened. So I can dig deeper and get that for you. And then
Thank you.
refer the CAO's office, refer to planning and the land use committee for follow-up. So right now, it's back at the planning and land use committee. That item.
Very good, Pamela.
Okay, and then the last one, well, we have two more. So the Nader's property, 502 North Gaffey is one of the addresses for that property. So Chris Nader, who is one of the sons, contacted me and we had a meeting virtually, myself, me, Sergio, and Amanda, I believe, a couple of weeks ago. So it seems that the plan for the Nader family is that they want to use that property and turn it into a multi-family housing development with commercial space at the bottom. So it's just a high-level discussion. There is no defined development plan right now. They're just talking. I don't know, at least if Chris has followed up with you.
No, he has
No?
not.
He has not. So right now, I think they're just trying to get a feel from the community and community leadership, like if that would be supported or not. The councilman at this time doesn't have a position. He wants to know more about the design and whether or not they can solve for parking and the traffic flow and means of ingress and egress, getting in and out of that kind of weird angle there. So it's a safety concern.
Yeah. That it is. Yeah.
That's challenging.
Back in the olden days, some may remember the proposal that Frank O'Brien had for the exit park. But Pamela, you said the family's not interested in selling it, correct?
No.
They want to.
They want to hold on to the property. It's just that they're interested in developing it.
They want income from it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what could buy it, turn it into a playground.
We may want to put that on that future agenda for comments.
Pamela, that is, I mean, that is such a difficult site. And I don't know if they have the bandwidth to try to acquire property adjacent. I don't personally know how that concept could take place on that tiny piece of land, but I have not heard from the family. Hopefully we'll hear soon.
Oh, well, so that's initially they gave me 502 North Gaffey, but they own supposedly all of that irregular lot.
Oh, they, okay, well, you know what, I'll email Chris tomorrow and see if we can't start the conversation.
And then what he's looking for, which I cannot provide, he's looking for a potential referral to a couple of developers that may be interested in supporting this effort, but I can't, in my capacity, I can't refer them.
I'll see if I can, I'll email him tomorrow and see if we can get it started.
Would probably be significant.
I know.
Significant community opposition.
I think so too, Pamela.
Yes.
It's just a terrible location.
But okay, so this is the thing. I think that he would be open to hearing feedback. So if in fact,
We can't hear Pamela because people are talking.
if in fact you don't feel that that would get buy-in, it would be probably good to come up with some concepts that may get buy-in. So if that doesn't work, is there some other development concept that might work? Or is it, and if it does work, then let him know. But then I think whatever is there, that traffic angle and the pattern, the flow, means of ingress and egress is still going to be very sensitive at that location, no matter what it is.
No matter what.
Guys, I think if they did a feasibility study, they would find out that there's really not much.
That's what I think too.
How about a dead retail museum?
Now,
Donut shop.
so I think Pamela,
Do you have another issue, another item?
because we can put it on next month's agenda.
Do you have another item, Pam?
The last one is the contact for UCLA.
Oh, yeah. That was just for you to send it to me, Pam.
And
You
I'll
just send it.
email you that link.
Yeah, thanks.
So those were the things that I followed up on based on the email I received. So are there any questions?
No, I think it's interesting about that property, but yeah, I honestly don't see how anything can be done. It kind of has the makings of that one Nelson project that was down the street.
Let's see if they can buy it.
You know,
I don't know anything about.
How many ideas?
Yeah.
now San Pedro's going through, what? You just heard earlier, a zoning map. This could be an opportunity for you to comment on that parcel.
Yeah, that's such an odd parcel.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Pamela.
Thank you, Pamela.
You're welcome.
And I'm sure we'll be getting back with some additional questions later.
Okay, and I'll follow
Thank
up
you.
with you via email on the UCLA contact. I'll give you the specifics regarding the modifications, and then I'll also tell you if they've cleared those things. Because I think they may have moved forward because it may take longer to do all of that. So hopefully they can move forward to get the permit so they can start.
Plus the amendments to the metro sign ordinance.
Correct, yes. So I'll send you an email right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Night, Pam.
Go home.
Bye.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next item.
Okay, we'll get to the end and we'll talk about agenda items.
Yes. So next item is consideration of a letter requesting free parking at lot adjacent to the Maritime Museum. Diana.
Yeah, you know, back in 2001, we wrote to the developer and the city asking that that parking lot be opened and that the promenade be opened, and they did, which has been wonderful. But now they're starting to charge for parking for that lot, and people who are coming down to walk the promenade are saying, you know, there's nothing else going on down there. Why are they charging us for parking now? Can we waive the parking until such time as something else is developed?
Well, I could weigh in on this. This is the issue. People that, and I'm not, any of you are involved in sport fishing, maybe can weigh in on this. I'm not. But the sport fishing community is taking over that parking lot. And they're coming in like 3 or 4 in the morning. We're talking about the one next at 6th and Harbor, right? And the parking lot was full by, 9 a.m. of people in the sport fishing community. And they've got a lot of issues down there, and they're trying to manage the lot. And one way to manage it is to have a fee, so you're turning the parking over. We could have the Jericho come in and talk about it, but I know they were really struggling with management of the situation down there. That's as much as I know.
So maybe we should ask Jason.
Could we not just make it like a 2-hour parking and actually enforce a ticket rather than charging?
I think we should have, we can send the letter and ask these questions. But I will also say, as the chamber and PBIT have a joint parking committee, charging for parking is a way of control, adding money in for maintenance, security. And so, there's a whole myriad of issues that I'm reading the book. There's, high cost of parking right now. I'll lend it to you. But but I think maybe we ask them to talk about the situation there.
Okay, so I had a rally for Israel a week and a half ago, right there. And prior to that, we'd gone to that parking lot and there was no sign up. Okay. All of a sudden that Sunday, there was a sign up there. It's $2 an hour plus. Mm-hmm. Okay. They've also got the same sort of parking up there at that little park where the kids' playground is next to Royal Palms. So, we know this is all about the monetization of downtown San Pedro, but somehow we as people that live in San Pedro would like to avail ourselves of these amenities. These are, when you're all talking here and you're all seeing it, this is it happening in real time. You are going to be charged for every amenity in this town that you are going to go to, and you don't get a say in it. Nobody even said they were putting up these signs. So we're all sitting here saying, oh,
Well,
may I finish?
Craig, please finish.
My whole thing in all this is I just don't come to downtown. There's no reason for me, okay? I don't drive down Western because the traffic's gotten too bad, but nobody seems to think this is an issue because somebody's selling these these units and making money. But we, as people and who are living here and our children that are going to live here, hopefully, they are going to be concerned about this.
Okay.
James?
Elisa, how is the sport fishing people getting over to 22nd Street if they're parking at the Maritime?
There were boats going out of the harbor cut. So that's why they were literally taking over that lot and filling it early in the morning. But I do want to say the issue with charging for parking was brought to us by the business community. And we are collecting letters because our parking is so inexpensive in downtown San Pedro. What we have been seeing happening is employees are taking the public parking on 6th and 7th and side streets. They're feeding the meter all day long, rather than working on buying. We have a Topaz building is offering monthly parking passes to employees, so their employees have secured parking, and we can free the street parking up for people coming to our restaurants and our businesses and for entertainment. This has been about I would say 3 or 4 year discussion that the PBID and the chamber have been having with our local businesses and restaurants. And we're so excited that the Topaz opened 600 public parking spaces for downtown. Now granted, it's $2 an hour, but that money is being used for insurance, security guards, and maintenance on the structure. So there's direct costs when you open up public parking to a community. So I'm going to take all these comments back to our joint parking committee because we are taking in a variety of comments. But I do want you all to know this is something the business community has been raising because restaurants say their customers are circling the block. Why is there no parking? And they're leaving and not taking advantage of their reservations at the restaurant. So it's a continuing conversation, and I'll bring your comments over.
Yeah, I have parking on 7th Street, and if I leave midday, I can never get back. But what I was gonna comment on that parking lot over there by the Maritime Museum, the only way you can pay is using the app.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I think, that kind of creates a complication for certain people that might not be phone savvy.
Right.
And actually, the first time I tried it, I could not get that darn
app to work.
Load.
Okay.
So that kind of creating another level of complexity to that.
But I definitely think that we should have the management group for that parking lot come in and talk to the committee about why they're structuring it the way they are.
Just an answer, you put all the PBID and the chamber. We're talking about our stakeholders in the community.
Absolutely.
Let me finish. I understand.
Sorry, I just was responding.
Okay? My point of view is, we are the community of San Pedro, and we're not being included in these talks. It's being decided by the chamber, it's decided by their PBIDs. There's no reach out from the CD15 office, nothing. We're sitting here, and then all of a sudden, we go up there and we find out it's gonna cost us $2 an hour to park here. The concern of Jericho and everybody else is making money. We want to be able to enjoy the facilities that we've been enjoying for the past, how long? I've lived here 30 years, okay? And these concerns of the PBID and of the business owners, we heard them, what was this, 7, 8 years ago when they came to us and said, we need to get rid of a lot of the charging parking, and the parking needs to be cheaper. You had time to say, oh, you know what, we need to put in more public parking. But the PBID and the chamber didn't do that because they knew, my point of view is, they all knew, Jericho knew that they were going to charge for all this stuff and we were going to have to pay for it. Now, it doesn't,
Jericho's been pretty clear from the beginning that they were going to charge.
They're going to charge.
But every time it's been asked in a public meeting, they've always told us they were going to charge. I think the question here was, they're charging now, but there's nothing in exchange that there's no amenities that have been developed in exchange. And so the way it was brought to me was, until such amenities get developed, can we have parking continue to be free? And that's where the letter came from. So we either decide that we want to invite Jericho to come, or somebody makes a motion for one of the neighborhood councils that we want to adopt it, or we just table the whole thing. So we've got options here.
I have a question. This gentleman has a great point. If they're gonna charge $2 an hour and the employees can park there, so the owner of the restaurant would have to pay $2 more an hour just for that employee to get break even. If he does that and you multiply that, his prices are gonna go up. All of a sudden you have less people going there. You have an inverted pyramid. You have the people at the bottom trying to pay for the people at the top, and all of a sudden there's nobody at the bottom.
No, I don't think the purpose of that lot is to provide employee parking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would have, no, not that lot.
Okay.
The Topaz.
The Topaz, yeah.
But this particular lot is really intended for visitors to the waterfront. It's not intended, and one of the problems that we have downtown in general is that parking that is intended for people who are coming to the restaurants, or people that are coming to enjoy the waterfront, is taken up by people who live here. Or who aren't supposed to be, that is not what that parking was intended for. So we have a huge parking problem in downtown.
Yeah.
Already.
Management problem, yes.
Diana? Yeah, the real problem here with that particular lot next to the Maritime Museum, that was a public port lot.
Yeah.
And the port amended the lease agreement with Jericho and handed that lot over to them. Now, the first I heard about it was when it happened, after it was a done deal. I mean, that's one of those things somebody from, port development throws in there, and it ends up on a harbor commission agenda that nobody's informed of beyond the 72-hour notice, and boom, it happens, and suddenly now Jericho makes those decisions. So that's really a big part of the problem. Regardless of why Jericho is doing it, they can do it.
Yeah, they can.
Okay, pure and simple. The best thing at this point may be to sit down and have a discussion with them, but I'm not quite sure how far that's going to get. So
you're proposing that we put that on our next agenda, put this over to our next.
Somebody should go talk to Alan, and find out, not you, Alan, but the other Alan.
Or Lauren, or.
Yeah, or Lauren or somebody, and say, at least ask for them to come and have a discussion.
Okay, let's do that, because I don't want to spend any more time.
Yeah, I that's how I feel about it.
We're getting way wound up too much on this real simple thing, small lot, single action, make it public until such time as something else happens.
That's a
It's not a big deal. I mean, I understand all this other stuff about access and so forth. If we pass it tonight, at least we can talk to Alan tomorrow about it. He's probably gonna be at the Grand Annex movie tomorrow night. I say let's just pass it, move on, at least we get something out of it.
Do you want to make a motion, Pat, for Northwest?
Yeah, I move we adopt this. The second part that's on page 2 of the thing again, parking lot for the 6th Street.
Okay.
It's been hanging since November of 2021, so it's almost a year now. See if we can get them to do it.
Well, the year ago was requesting that it be opened, and it was opened. They responded to that. So this is a new situation. It's only been going on for a couple months, I think.
Couple
weeks.
No, it's been going on.
No, it's been going on much longer, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was not, that been the first time you encountered it, but we encountered it quite a couple months ago.
Yeah, it was sort of around the
I didn't see the signs that were there.
they were hard to find, but
Hard to see.
I noticed them as well, and then that's when I was trying to download that app.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion on the table. This is for Northwest.
Restate the motion.
The motion would be to send the letter, the proposed letter that was in the packet regarding parking, requesting that basically it says requesting until such time as West Harbor is developed, the parking lot be free to use with the exception of special events. Now, it doesn't say that they would still be free to come in and say 2-hour parking or whatever. I mean, that would be a decision they could make within the context of this request. So that's the motion. But we don't, do we have a second for the motion from Northwest?
Well, frankly, what Elise said about the challenge they're having in filling up a parking lot at the early hours, and then it's not available, it's not available for visitors.
It wasn't.
Or anybody else.
Right, because it was full.
So, now I have second thoughts about this morning.
So if there's no motion.
I second the motion.
Oh. Just to say it died for lack of a second.
Robert's Rules of Order somewhere.
Okay, so for Northwest,
Discussion?
yeah.
So why don't we append in here that we would like to see 2-hour parking enforced? Because there's lots of, if you park in Santa Monica, you can't feed meter, they will chalk your tires and you will get a ticket. They enforce that stuff. Do not. It'll probably solve the problems downtown too, cheap meters. If you enforced it.
Is that addition okay with you, Pat? Okay.
I second it.
Yeah. So I would figure out how to say that.
Do
we have a quorum?
Yes, we do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, we do. We only need 4.
Jurisdictional wise, it sits in coastal, northwest, or central.
It's jurisdiction-wise, it's in central.
The Northwest is making
But all.
Citywide.
There's an ordinance from our public facilities belong to all neighborhood councils.
That's what the. So does Central want to take it up first?
If we could get a second on Central.
No, someone needs to make the motion first.
Who wants to make a motion for the letter on Central?
I'm on both committees.
I'll make it.
Okay. And a second? All right. I'll just take a quick vote. Frank?
Yes.
No.
Mark?
Yes,
Well, I'm abstaining myself as well.
I didn't hear Lamar.
Failed.
He abstained, so the motion failed.
Yes.
Did Northwest vote?
No, not yet.
Oh.
Sorry, we got ahead of you.
They were testing the water.
Felt like we had to let Central go first. It just happened that Northwest put it on the table first, and let Central vote first. So, we're back to, we have a motion from Northwest that added a sentence about the 2-hour parking and then it being
We
enforced.
did it first and second on it, we didn't do a vote.
No, we haven't yet.
We have to do a vote to do the amendment.
No, that's why I asked you if the amendment was acceptable. So we took an acceptable amendment, so we didn't have to vote on it. So, that would be Linda?
No.
No. Rock is not here. Craig?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
And I'm going to go with a no, only because I think I wanted to extend the courtesy of having them come first. But so the motion does pass, and it will go forward to our board. And Coastal?
Bring it pass.
Coastal's going to pass.
One question, couldn't they limit the use of the parking area to a certain point, like 9 AM, which is past what most of the fishermen would be here for?
I think we should invite them to come talk about the lot, the challenges and opportunities. I don't want to speak for them. I mean, I'm in meetings where I hear what at a meeting, but I don't want to speak for the team.
I think.
Do we need a motion to invite Jericho to come and explain?
I put it on the agenda. I just added it to the agenda. Yeah, it'll be on the next agenda.
I think we should be discussing the long-term parking period downtown and what we're going to do and how our stakeholders are going to be able to access these amenities.
Well, we'll have to pick it up as a separate item.
Next
We're not
item.
gonna,
Surprise!
we're not gonna solve that tonight, so,
I just asked as a general.
Dinner's a surprise.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay, so we are gonna move on to the next item, which is the affordable housing streamlining ordinance. And Robin, you can take the floor.
Sure. Is the sound coming through okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. This is a big deal. We should all be looking into this carefully. Some of you may have attended the presentation and the public hearing on October 11th by planning. We just received a notice and reminder yesterday that comments are due to city planning by October 30th, which is just a couple days away. And then they think it may be going to CPC November 16th. But the background is, you recall we saw a couple of projects last month at our meeting here that were ED1 projects, the Mayor's Executive Directive 1 that she passed just a few days after she got into office. And that was to expedite the processing of 100% affordable housing and shelter projects. And since it was issued back in December 2022, more than 23 projects have been approved under this executive directive, and an additional 56 pending applications. All that adds up to over 6,000 new affordable homes. So it's really working, and we saw that in our San Pedro projects last month. This program significantly lowers the time and costs required for affordable housing projects to obtain city approval. And this ordinance, this proposed ordinance, is to codify the Mayor's Executive Directive 1. Let's see that. So the new, it's basically streamlining the normal code process. And let's see, there are no public hearings. There are no discretionary decisions associated with this, and they would not be subject to any noticing requirements or appeal process. So we have to keep our eyes open as they're coming up. And they would also not be required to undergo any review under CEQA. Just to give you an idea of what types of projects are eligible. They have to comply with only objective zoning requirements like height and setbacks. They cannot be projects that need any zone changes, specific plan exceptions, or other type of discretionary entitlements. They cannot be located in a single family zone or a manufacturing zone that does not allow multifamily residential uses. The projects are for 5 or more units, multifamily. They cannot be subject to Subdivision Map Act. They cannot require the demolition of a historic resource. They cannot be in the coastal zone. They cannot request more than 2 density bonus off-menu incentives. They cannot request any density bonus off-menu incentives that in residential zones would be a more than 100% increase in floor area ratio, 3-story, more than 3-story increase in height, and there's some other things, setbacks and so forth. And then lastly, how it's defined, a 100% affordable housing project is defined as the creation of 5 or more residential dwelling units where all new units are restricted affordable. That means it goes on your deed for at least 55 years. It has to remain affordable. And all units in the project are required to be affordable to lower income households. So that's going to include low income, very low, and extremely low. All that is under the HUD definition, federal. And then up to 20% of the units may be affordable to moderate income households. I did attend that hearing, and there were a number of comments, mainly from developers who wanted to liberalize some of those restrictions. So I do suggest that you all take this back to your planning committee and look at it in more detail. It's also I was very impressed that it does protect RSO housing. I won't go into detail, but you can see that when you look at the draft ordinance. So again, they want comments to planning by October 30th. And if you miss that deadline, I don't think we can get it through our committees by then. We can get something prepared maybe for CPC. And if we miss that, we can at least get a CIS in for Plum. So I do recommend you bring that to your next meeting for a more in-depth discussion. But overall, I think it's an excellent program and it's just the kind of thing we need. Wish we'd have done it a few years ago. But 100% affordable housing projects really make a lot of sense. And they're much easier to control as well in terms of assuring that people who qualify get those affordable units. Any questions?
Yeah, have we asked for an extension of time? Usually we get like a, 60-day extension or something like that to be able to get the comments in so that it could potentially be gotten in by our next meetings.
City planning doesn't give extensions. You're thinking of the port or I don't know what.
And Noel, you can, that's one thing to get it, the comment to the city planning, but then you have 2 other or 3 other levels that you can get comments to past that deadline.
Yeah.
So the way we've always looked at it is that's only the first step in collecting comments.
And we can all submit comments as individuals,
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none,
feel free to email me if you have any other questions or need help finding the draft ordinance or anything.
Why don't you send me the link, Robin, and I'll put it in the minutes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we have the phone number?
Will do.
yeah.
I don't know if we wouldn't have a council phone number yet, it's too soon.
Oh, we do. I think it's a 23-0623.
Oh.
If it's a draft ordinance, it's moved.
06 what, 23?
Correct, 23-0623.
Yeah, a couple of 2, 3.
All right, very good. We're gonna move on to the next item, which is consideration of CIS in support of Council File 23-0957, the Jedi Zone for Pacific Avenue in Diana.
Yeah, this should be a fairly straightforward one. I know Northwest and Central, I believe, and
We did it,
Coastal
yeah.
supported, sent a letter to the councilman asking that he initiate a process to create a Jedi Zone for Pacific. He sent the letter. He sent the letter. He sent the letter. He did initiate the motion, set it in process. There's now a council file. It would be nice to submit a CIS in support of that council file. And so basically, the proposed motion here is a reiteration of what we said in the original letter.
Yeah, I think Coastal already did.
A CIS?
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't.
If we do it.
I don't think we did either. Second.
Moved by Pat, seconded for Northwest, it got moved by Pat. Seconded Jason. But Central want to act first?
Yes.
Okay.
We need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Linda?
Second. Okay, I'll take a quick vote. Frank?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
And myself, yes.
So unanimous for Central. So we got a move in second from Pat and Jason for Northwest. And Linda?
Yes.
Craig?
Abstain.
Jason?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
And Diana, yes. So motion carries with one abstention. Okay.
Very good. So our next item.
I just wanted you to know we did submit the CIS. I just saw it on the council file.
Coastal had already done a CIS, okay.
Very good. Our last item is comments on the draft connectivity plan. And Jason, you've had a letter prepared for that.
Yep. Do you want me to share it? Or it's in our share, but do you want it on the screen or do you want it on the screen? Don't have a computer.
Let's see. Everybody's. kind of hard to read from there, but maybe you could, this is the letter that we saw last time, right?
Well,
No.
the letter that we saw last time, which was before they released the connectivity plan, then they released the plan and it kind of changed a lot of things. And it made me, I had to basically redo almost everything.
Oh.
It's like 50 to 60%.
Okay.
I'll start with a quick overview. The Neighborhood Council thanks the Port of Los Angeles for the creation of the waterfront connectivity plan. The document includes very many well-anticipated change elements, which once realized, for which the port will receive just lauding. The document itself is an achievement and represents the most thorough and comprehensive view into the development of San Pedro waterfront and impacts to date. While these components are positive in nature and general intention, we have some concerns that the Port of Los Angeles connectivity plan may fall short of some of the needs and expectations of the communities adjacent to the significant developments on port property, as well as those in the San Pedro community in general. Background. In response to a letter voicing past concerns surrounding the closure of the waterfront red car, the port covered the topic in a special meeting and responded that a forthcoming connectivity plan would be created by an outside consultant. It was related that the right-of-way where the rail had been removed was retained and leased out as a children's park for 10 years. The port then offered to allow neighborhood council participation in the connectivity plan. Thus, the neighborhood council tabled the discussion pending the formation of the connectivity plan and an accompanying committee. The port never endorsed the forming of the committee, and participation has been limited to that given the public at large. Thus, this body has had very limited input prior to the draft study publication and must comment on perceived shortcomings retroactively rather than helping to shape the plan to culminate in the most positive outcome for the community. Legacy waterfront car rail. The complete removal of sections of the rail to accommodate the roadway realignment at the intersection of Minor and Harbor Boulevard, which formerly supported the San Pedro Red Car attraction and could have been used as the core of a waterfront transportation service as envisioned in the 2009 Wilson and Company Waterfront Red Car Line Expansion Feasibility Study, link provided, contradicts promises made by the port to the community to restore the San Pedro Red Cars to service once Harbor Boulevard had been reconfigured in 2015. The failure of this promise was further cemented by the removal of additional rail sections and subsequent installation of an ill-sited children's playground directly adjacent to the busy roadway across from Rancho San Pedro housing site, which runs afoul of recommendations by EPA and CARB against such facilities within 500 feet of heavily trafficked thoroughfares, citing children's exposure to PM 2.5 and nitrous oxides from vehicular traffic causing developmental issues. Similar children's health concerns have been cited by Wilmington concerning the rail yard expansion near local schools. Not only does this park create another barrier to implementation of a dedicated right-of-way waterfront mobility plan, but this second action serves to create a physical barrier and choke point to the expansion of any additional mode of transportation along Harbor Boulevard, including but not limited to light rail, separated bike lanes, dedicated busway, or the addition of lanes to Harbor Boulevard itself without alteration of the current land use there. The removal of these sections of rail also serve to inhibit extension of an LA Metro light rail station in San Pedro as discussed in the 2009 Metro Harbor Subdivision Transit Corridor Studies, link provided. Neither of these studies are cited in the list of documents which were reviewed in the making of the San Pedro Waterfront Connectivity Plan. The plan states on page 23 that the waterfront red car line was expensive and not practical, but provides no data, alternative studies, or references to substantiate this conclusion. The latter document could have provided solid background materials by which to make this claim, but at this point, the public must conclude that this is an unsubstantiated opinion. The port has in the past mentioned the red car was expensive and highlighted on multiple occasions that the high platforms and need for crossing guards were a major source of this cost. The WRCL study addresses both of these items, noting that low platform streetcars were compatible with the existing rail being used, but at a substantial cost reduction, and updating to this use of motorized carriage would enhance operability, flexibility, and reduce costs. Such style of light rail does not need crossing guards and could operate within street alignments. However, this study, authorized by a different port management, was not reviewed. Event traffic. The northern part of Harbor Boulevard is currently a bottleneck as external traffic enters the waterfront from the 110 and/or 47 towards this roadway. The port correctly identifies this. It mentions on page 83 of the SPWCP, which we'll just call that plan, that on most days, the area should have good traffic flow with minimal delays. As the diagram above shows, however, event days will likely involve heavy traffic. There were quotes around that last bit. Buried far into the document, the SPWCP anticipates that there will be 100 event days per year. This is on page 280. That equates and probably is exactly one event every weekend on each day that is not holiday. Thus, by this document, one could conclude that every weekend will experience heavy traffic delays necessitating lane closures and diversions of traffic away from 6th Street per their plan on page 83. Harbor Boulevard North Lane additions. The SPWCP mentions that expanding lanes in both directions from Swinford to 7th Street is part of the traffic mitigation solution, page 86. However, there is no room for expansion that does not require moving existing pavement uses currently dedicated to bicycle lanes or recurbing and or moving the hillsided playground. The SPWCP has self-conflicting plans within this document regarding this component. And there's an illustration kind of showing this section by the park, which is up on the screen. For example, on the next page, the pilot project. Improving access to the waterfront for the local community, page 126 and 7, shows only 2 traffic lanes, but includes extensive curb bulb outs that are a welcome element of an urban street design guide. However, these protrude even further into the roadway and compress the available traffic lanes and bicycle path lanes as one approaches the intersection. Additionally, page 149 recommends relocating the bike lanes to the retired red car right-of-way as far south as 8th Street. Again, there is currently a children's park under construction in this space on this part of the stretch of the right-of-way. In roadway bike lanes and the above pilot project bulb outs will certainly need to be removed to make way for a 3rd lane. Assuming the children's park will not be moved, it appears that the roadway will be expanded even closer, such that idling cars and tire and brake ducts will be an arm's reach away from the kids. Would you want your children to play there? Additionally, this expansion of lanes appears to be slated for 5 or more years in the future, page 382. Well after mentioned harbor attractions are in full production for some time. This will make construction impacts even worse and subject residents to prolonged and increased traffic in the meantime, with no mitigations planned aside from the lane closures for event days. Historic trolley attraction. An opportunity for St. Peter's waterfront, page 105, introduces a trolley park attraction ride, much like that at the Grove, created by TIGM of Chatsworth, California, link provided. This style of electric tram is either battery or fuel cell powered and thus does not require more expensive overhead electrical power supply needed by WRCL. While the homage to the red car does provide a historic facade, the planned route is a meager 25% of the former WRCL. Then there's some images on the next page showing the 2 different routes. As such, the proposed route running near the LA Maritime, near the LA Maritime Institute location to 22nd Street provides dubious utility, not aligned with any major endpoint. Much as the WRCL's ridership suffered and utility suffered from the lacking a destination, as it was built in anticipation of development that did not arrive during its time. This diminutive version seems very inadequate, a way to red car wash the project. Moreover, the red car attraction is slated for build at least 10 years into the future, page 220, and mentions it being built along a new rail line. There exists a perfectly useful rail line there today, disused for over 8 years, approaching a 20-year absence by the SPWCP's timeline. TIGM is capable of building trams of high quality and greater range than that depicted in the SPWCP, which can serve a useful segment of the waterfront. Such a tram system would be ideal to connect to a regional transit hub, as proposed by the port, page 97, and future LA Metro Light Rail to San Pedro. Rubber wheeled trolley. The wheeled trolley has provided a valuable service to St. Peter in its current form and capacity needs, page 103 and others. However, the problems with increased traffic will be experienced by any mode of transportation without a dedicated right-of-way. Additionally, a bus type of service will always suffer from one thing: a lack of commitment. As St. Peter has experienced, developers and residents cannot rely on a bus service to factor into their calculus of their projects or living arrangements. The routes can be whimsically changed and schedules are notoriously vary based on congestion. Thus, projects that qualified as transit-oriented and thus developed with insufficient parking would no longer qualify as density bonuses today. This is not true of rail transportation, which provides a known and certain route. A lack of dedicated right-of-way for any transit at the waterfront is a concern. Current internal combustion trolleys emit pollutants and particulates. This is noted by the port, and casual mention is made that an upgrade to electric could be made, page 103. This should be mandatory for any such system. Additionally, upgrading to a fuel cell electric trolley vehicle itself is in the same realm of cost as a rail trolley and may in fact require higher maintenance costs than rail-based chassis. Such costs and trade-offs would be nice to see in a comprehensive connectivity alternative study rather than a statement of a transportation plan decision. Local transit hub, 7th and Pacific. The mentioned transit hub at 7th and Pacific appears to be envisioned as a pair of adjacent bus stops. These are upgraded bus stops in that they have a canopy and a kiosk representing what all bus stops in Los Angeles should be. A transit hub implies a multimodal transit interface, including bus, automobile parking, bicycle, e-bike rental, as seen at the Minor and 22nd Street Mobility Hub, the termination of the red car attraction, page 191, which cannot be found at 7th and Pacific. This does not seem to qualify as a hub. Regional transit hub and parking. The regional transit hub, page 97, will represent milestone achievement in San Pedro Transit. Such a hub would seem to be ideally located near the cruise terminal in Vincent Thomas Bridge. This would ultimately feature a connection to LA Metro rail lines, bus, local transit, and water taxi. Necessarily having a substantial parking structure, this hub could prevent many car trips penetrating deeper into the waterfront to hunt for parking. See potential parking deficits, page 246 to 248. And park once and stay all day is possible with a well-connected hub to both the waterfront, San Pedro, and the outside world. Capturing visiting traffic near the entrance to the waterfront has the potential to alleviate traffic pressures on South Harbor Boulevard, providing reliable and frequent transportation is available to and from this hub. This also frees up valuable waterfront real estate for other uses than parking lots and parking structures. Note, it is a concern that parking diagram on page 248 appears to identify residential neighborhoods as preferred and free parking. Local transportation hub, Minor and 22nd Street. This is a good example of a transportation hub, page 191, suggesting to keep in mind an extension of the red car tram to what form it may manifest beyond 22nd Street. Traffic circle. At the Via Cabrillo Marina and Shoshonian Road, the SPWCP calls out problems with the intersection leading towards Cabrillo Beach and indicates that such an intersection would be better served by a traffic circle, page 86. This is a great idea. Notable is a similar but larger and more trafficked intersection at Harbor Boulevard and Minor. This intersection can be a problem today with traffic lining up to turn right and cars rushing in and cutting over to the right at the last moment to make their way along Minor Street towards the southern parts of San Pedro. This is a major alternative transportation route for those living south of downtown. The same traffic circle treatment could be given to this intersection, in the middle of which could be placed an attractive centerpiece landscaping and or artwork to visually anchor the waterfront to downtown San Pedro. Pedestrian bridge. A pedestrian bridge is mentioned on page 151 in conjunction with additional parking structures along the bluffs between 8th and 14th Streets, leading into the neighborhoods above. This may not be desired by those neighborhoods, as they may lead to visitors wandering about their streets. A better place to site a pedestrian bridge would be farther down, closer to downtown, and provide some method to cross Harbor and or Minor on foot without traffic lights and crosswalks. Crossing Harbor Boulevard will be an impediment to both pedestrians and vehicular traffic, and a better way to move people between the two areas is needed. One San Pedro had envisioned such a pedestrian bridge across Harbor Boulevard. Next picture. Okay, wayfinding. Apps to view and plan transit in Los Angeles are notoriously bad. We just heard about a parking app that Javier was having problems with. Third-party apps sometimes fill some of these gaps. Wayfinding at the waterfront should be implemented to a high standard with real-time display of trolley, tram, water taxi locations, schedule of events and estimated arrival times, parking availability overlaid with special events, and include interactive maps. Water art. Some water art attractions and activities are shown from installations around the world, page 70. Include among these one example that integrates well with Cabrillo Marine Aquarium, the Underwater Ocean Discovery Center in Busselton, Australia. Link provided. This ambitious project is expected to be highly revenue positive. A scaled-down version of such an observatory concept could exist as a permanent glass-bottom boat in the proximity to our aquarium, perhaps in conjunction with Altasea. Pacific Avenue Bikeway. There's intention to upgrade the bike pass on Pacific Avenue to a Class 4 separated bikeway, page 151. As Pacific Corridor is narrow, and such separation would require the elimination of parking only to Pacific Avenue, where this class 4 bikeway would exist. It would be great for cyclists, but sure to be a highly contested idea in an area with a parking shortage and no reliable public transit. Crescent Avenue sidewalk. Item 12 on page 134 recommends the removal of degenerated granite pathway and paving it as a sidewalk. This portion of the park is meant as a trail, not as a city sidewalk. Degenerated granite is much better for hiking, walking, and running than cement. As the other side of the street is residential and has paved sidewalks, is it required to degrade the park pathway by paving it? Gulch Road sidewalk and improved crossing. The stop sign at this intersection is dangerous, page 134, item 14. People who do not know what's there routinely drive straight through it. It is recommended that flashing red light be placed on the stop sign. Maritime Museum building repurposing.
Question, that's the one opposite Field?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I've had friends go right through it and didn't even know it's there. Maritime Museum building repurposing. It is mentioned that the Maritime Museum should not be located in the historic building at the waterfront, page 166, item 2, and it would be replaced by another amenity, but no such amenity has been identified. The eviction of the museum from its longtime home for no intended use would seem to query for an explanation. Outreach results. The results of the outreach are of marginal interest as the sample size was extremely small, such that they could not represent the wants and needs of the cross-section of St. Pedro's, 51 people. However, of note is that parking ranked high on the respondents list, page 297, as they can't imagine transit serving them well. We hope the port will change that. Harbor and Swinford Gateway. The signage is attractive, as is the landscaping, page 181. One question, who's going to maintain it? Please see page 180. I read that pretty fast.
Yes.
Oh.
Some work?
Yes.
Great job, man. Very good. It's interesting that the last time the Maritime Museum is proposed as some other use, when it seems like that's the perfect location for it.
Yeah, it's a Maritime
What
Museum.
connects the history of our town and the harbor than a museum?
There may be other uses that might actually draw people there more than the Maritime, but that's another discussion.
Well, I mean,
That's a whole other discussion.
We're gonna have all the restaurants.
I would just point out that the Maritime Museum draws something along the lines of 50,000 visitors a year, if anybody bothered to check.
More than that.
And then that doesn't count, online and all that stuff that they're doing.
You're exactly right, Mr.
I think you make excellent points. I think the pedestrian bridges, it's a great idea. I've always thought that should be a bridge on 7th Street, kind of connecting the West Harbor to the downtown area, which would also liberate the cross-traffic problems. So definitely I support that idea. Anybody has comments, Lamar?
I really like to commend you on this.
Yes, excellent.
And I participated in like 3/4 of a very notable finance for MTA. And their whole design was acclimated towards the airport and towards Santa Monica Beach. This whole area was totally left out of the mix. I also see a nightmare potentially once you get the West Harbor up and running, because if you're talking about moving to Iowa to a different spot, you're talking about a hellified nightmare traffic-wise. I noticed there was no mention of MTA in this. And I think MTA is probably the big gorilla in the room, who could potentially cause a hellified nightmare when West Harbor is totally built out.
Any other comments?
Yeah, fabulous, Jason, really. I agree with all the points you were bringing up. I had one question when you were talking about the predicted 100 events a year. And then I wasn't watching the screen, I was watching you, and I wasn't sure if I heard you say it would be like one event per weekend, but that'd be 2 events per weekend.
One event per day per weekend.
Per day per weekend, yeah. Yeah, so fill up the weekends, and they've been saying 100 events. for a long time, but I mean, it is not going to sit there empty for 2/3 of the year. There's going to be other things going on too.
And they make the flippant comment that, oh, it's only on event days that we'll have heavy traffic, which turns out every weekend, every time. I thought it was just kind of funny.
Yeah.
This is very minor and tricky, but on that same thing on event traffic, it says the port correctly identifies this. In this case, it's not the port, it's the plan. The port hasn't adopted the plan. So it really shouldn't say the port has done that. It should say that the plan has done that.
But okay.
And the other part of that is, I don't think there's any reference in there to days that might have multiple events. And I think it's entirely likely that we could have days with multiple events. I think that ought to have something with that. The other thing I want to say is that comments on this are due to the port November 14th. This is really kind of our last chance to do something.
Is it at Harbor Commission? December 7th.
Yeah.
A date which will live in.
7th or December 14th?
You know what, I'm gonna look at my calendar.
I thought it was December, I thought it was.
I heard 7.
I thought I
may be right.
Yeah.
7 December 7. Now, that doesn't mean it's actually gonna happen,
But that's the target.
Yeah, we're really good. They're running out of time.
yeah.
And am I correct about being November 14th? I thought it was a month,
I would have to check my
but
notes.
I thought it was November 14th was the due date. So people want to do anything with it, they have to act at the next board meeting.
Yes. Very well.
Thank you, Jason.
Again, Jason, excellent work.
Amazing.
Committee, okay.
Our board meeting is going to be on the 20th.
No, yours is after.
No, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Special meeting to do something before.
But if we need to,
Well,
we could
we can
adopt,
still bring it up and, it'll be
or we could adopt it
after the
afterwards
fact.
and then appear with the.
That's what I was thinking, on
I think
December
we
7th and
we need to
submit
send it
the
Here in person.
7th.
Regardless.
At the port.
At the, yeah.
Yeah, we could do that too.
Okay. Very well.
We could also ask for an extension.
Any other comments?
From the public, when you're ready.
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
For those that don't know my past role in this for the last 24 years, in 1999, we had charter reform. There were 36 of us that, the two commissions that put all this together, came out with a joint unified charter. And Supervisor Janice Hahn and I was on the elected side. I was on the appointed side, both of us from the 15th district. I actually took the place of councilman who started on this commission, McAllister, and have worked with it ever since. And Doug, and some of you people know how long we worked with it. But I've never in this time sat in a room in a joint situation with 3 neighbor councils, literally talking on the same subject plane as I've seen tonight. And that is an awesome thing to see for a co-author of this whole system, because that's what the whole idea was, we were thinking about in the beginning, is that the New England Town Hall concept, we visited St. Paul, we visited Portland and other places where neighborhood councils exist, and then Greg Nelson and some of those folks, and Joe Wax, the councilman at that time, we really tried to put all this together to see how we weren't going to succeed from LA, so we had to figure out a way to get ground up input to the system. And now we have 99, and of course, we've had a lot of growing pains, a lot of how to set the table stuff. I can't think enough about Doug over here, what he's trying to do to unify and try to get people to collaborate. The word collaboration is a very strong thing, and I think most of you all know what I'm saying. But for me to be able to observe for the last couple hours what this joint effort is being in this subject matter of planning has been really rewarding. I was on the Harbor Planning Commission when we first started that system. We went to 7 regional plan commissions, because we only had 5-member, Sam Bott one, was it? 5-member for the whole 400 square miles. So, I mean, to go get to a regional planning level, that was, of course, part of our challenge too. But I know Janice and I really spent a lot of time on this. A lot of people have more interest in the power of the city attorney and the mayor and all that kind of stuff. And at 2 years, we worked on it. And I sat in hearings throughout the entire city and heard, different kinds of feelings of what should or should not take place. But the theory is that we needed to have some grassroots, bottom-up stuff to get to our decision makers to deal with it. And I think I'll come in myself, and he sure goes down here. But I talked to Tim recently about the idea of his branding of the 5 communities, which no other councilman's ever done, right? And literally put his staff in that format so that there's more comfort. Of course, everybody's laughed at this, but I got my alley after 50 years in South Shores. That was a Tim Gasker plus right there. But the bottom line is the whole concept of neighborhood councils and the amount of time you guys volunteered and put into this is incredible. And I'm just thrilled to be able to watch this tonight. My gig right now is working with us to get older, called older adults, with the county for the last several years on that commission. I wanted to ask something about that Rancho San Pedro type of thing about what are they doing for the older folks? One of the things I've been trying to get across in our commission throughout the state is building codes need to reflect aging population. They need to include user-friendly enemies, things inside the house and how you design things and so forth, to think about people that can't necessarily be moving as fast as when they were kids and all of that. So that's some of the big things on the planning side I'm excited about with the Older Adults Commission here in the county. But again, I want to commend you guys. Way to go, guys, to be able to sit here and talk in a 3 neighborhood council format about something we all care about, the quality of life. And San Pedro's a place you go to, not through. I mean, that's been my recognition from day one. So, way to go.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you in 10 years. We'll see you in 10 years, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Don't stop to think about it. Just say it.
We're all living longer.
Yeah, aging,
Yes.
right?
We're all aging, yes.
Before your eyes.
Do we need a motion for the
Number 8?
Jason's comments?
If we want to, that would be good.
Yeah.
Well, I make one.
For which neighborhood council do you want to make it?
Oh, let me do both, yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
Motion to approve the draft connectivity plan that Jason so tirelessly, I'm sure, put
Yeah.
together.
So good, is that for?
Details beyond.
Both.
She's made it.
All right, do you want to make a?
And Pat seconded it for Northwest. What do you want to do with Central?
I'll second it.
Get a second?
I've got a bunch of stuff I
You want to take a vote?
Okay.
Did you read the plan?
Okay, Northwest, I'll take the vote for Northwest. Linda Alexander?
Yes.
Craig Goldfuss?
Yes.
Jason Herring?
Yes.
Pat Nave?
Yes.
Diana Nave? Yes. Unanimous for Northwest.
All right, we'll take a vote for Central. Linda?
Yes.
Lamar?
Yes.
Right. Yes. And myself, yes. Passes.
Coastal want to do anything with it? No.
Yeah,
We're gonna
we'll-
take it
we'll
back
take
so
up
we
at
can do the
committee.
full
We're
committee.
probably gonna be doing.
Yeah, you can't do it by then anyway.
Yeah.
Very
Okay.
good. All right. That ends that part. Updates.
Yeah, Alicia's going to give an update on parking in the cultural center.
Do you want to put that over till next month? Cultural Center, we are making great progress. We're talking to the CAO's office and working on the community benefit lease. So great progress with the Croatian Cultural Center. And parking, I would like to just carry over to next month.
Okay.
I would like to recommend that when you do get in there and you have an opening party, you must serve monster chili.
Okay.
Right?
No, that's down at the Piazza, that's not the town.
Oh, you mean Indigenous Peoples Plaza?
As long as
Yes.
So
Yeah, there you go. Ooh, got it.
I do have a couple other updates. The small lot development in Beacon and Crescent, we have heard that the public hearing would be soon and that they hope to start construction in early 2024.
I'm so excited. Really, do we have a tentative date or just?
That's all I've heard.
Okay, thanks.
That's all I have.
Actually, it's a really neat
Yeah,
project.
I'm excited.
I mean, it's got some architecture.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And
that's a rarity.
good consideration. The Link Housing on 9th Street, they're having a grand opening tomorrow.
3 PM.
There's a lot happening around the harbor. The West Harbor EIR is supposed to come out any day now. This is the supplemental one that has to do with the amphitheater. The cruise ship terminal RFP, they anticipate it going to the board, the second meeting in November, and released shortly after that. The parking lot expansion that the port is proposing at 22nd Street, interestingly, will result in the 2 small businesses on the corner being demolished. The new lot would
Two
have,
small businesses.
It's a
You're talking about the
boat
Marine
repair
Harbor.
center, and
I'm
I
talking about
have,
West Marine.
The canvas,
not West Marine.
You're talking the other.
it's a
No.
canvas shop for the yachts,
And
for
then-
the sails.
then
Yeah,
the
right
gentleman
across
that said he
from-
repairs some boats over there too, and.
Yeah, there's 2 small, very small businesses. The new lot would have 2,350 spaces, and it would be paid parking.
Paid parking, yes.
Paid parking is gonna hit San Pedro, and it's gonna hit us
It's on
hard.
the horizon.
It's coming.
It's,
The,
you know,
the state, the governor signed 54 bills that were related to housing. A lot of that limits what we can do, and so our ability to influence on housing is going to be greatly diminished as a result. I was hoping to listen to a conference on it, but unfortunately I had to have asked ahead of time for the access code, and I didn't ask until it came on, so I couldn't find out much more information. The housing element, the update on the housing element, the zoning, the other zoning initiatives, they expect to have the plan refined and ready for us to look at in December. And so we've asked them to come back either December or January and do a presentation to all 3 neighborhood councils and really involved the neighborhood councils, not just the committee at that time. And then the county housing element, La Rambla, a year or 2 years ago, we talked about that briefly. They've refined their list and greatly limited the areas where they're going to impact, but they're looking to rezone from commercial to mixed use, the area between Little Company and Holy Trinity, including the upzoning of Holy Trinity itself. And then the area off 6th Street where the professional buildings are, and the area on both sides of Banditti from First to Santa Cruz. I couldn't tell how many units they're proposing, but they're in the notice of preparation stage of their environmental review, and we'll be having a scoping meeting on November 2nd at 6 PM via Zoom. If anyone is interested, I do have at home now the Zoom, I got it today, the Zoom link.
okay, so I'm gonna talk to the hospital about it.
Yeah, it doesn't affect the hospital, it affects.
The hospital's very interested in increased housing construction in the community. They're looking at this.
So that was the update. The shipyard NLP is expected to be released in November.
Excellent. Any other updates? Seeing none. We have public comment on items not on the agenda.
I do have one comment. Could we please ask Christina not to say to enter in the alley behind? I just find that wording.
Maneuvering through the trash bins.
Yeah, maybe we could say use rear entrance off alley. It's just the alley behind, I don't know. Oh, you're responsible.
Actually, it's from.
When I came in, I thought that was a bad
Yeah,
word.
use rear entrances. Probably better, or something like that. Yeah, I'm sorry, I looked at the agenda and it really struck me.
Okay, I'll try to correct that, Doug.
Very good.
And Doug, maybe they should change the designation like rear admiral or something.
Yeah, here you go, yeah.
All right, well, before I just call the meeting, our next joint meeting is gonna be on Wednesday, November 29th, which is, the 5th Wednesday, and therefore that's a special meeting, because of Thanksgiving. So just keep that in mind.
Oh, okay. And the Best Western, Volunteers of America? Yeah, this VOA. We'll be coming to talk about the Best Western project, and then we have a lot of things we're carrying over from tonight's agenda.
Excellent.
You're in 9 o'clock next time.
Very good.
And we'll have a lot of parade decorations.
Oh, there you go.
So it'll be very festive here.
Excellent, so.
And thank you once again for the use of the chamber.
Oh, yes, thank you, Annalise.
And I'm
Thanks,
gonna-
everyone, and
talk
thanks
to
for
our
the end of the meeting.
About volume.
Nice job.
To see if
Bye, Robin.
I'm not, bye, Robin. To see if
You're the
there's
only one in
something
town.
I'm not doing.
I never get bored.
I think the sun would have set right now.
When did you want me to get together and talk about the